And this is a competitive game where players are going to be exploring a map as well as using worker placement to try and be the first to hit a certain amount of victory points in order to win the game. And the way that this game works is that each player is going to have their own personal player board, and you're going to have your character card that's going to be upgradable throughout the game, but it's going to give you some sort of special ability or special actions. And then you're also going to have a familiar. And there are a bunch of different familiars as well that are all unique and all can be upgraded as well, but you're going to be using your character as well as your character's familiar to help you throughout the game. And your board's going to be used to track all sorts of different things throughout the game, but the most important thing is your warmth, because this essentially acts as your action points throughout the game, because as you're taking more actions throughout the board, you're going to be spending your warmth in order to do so. But like I said, your board has a lot of other uses as well. It's going to be tracking your various stats as well as special items that you might have on hand and each of the individual resources. And the way that these resource tracks work is that you'll be using them to track the amount of those resources you have, but you're also going to have an upper limit that's going to limit the amount of each resource that you can carry. And as you upgrade that, you'll be able to carry more of that resource. This is also key to upgrading other aspects of your character, because as you move each of these tracks upward, you're going to be uncovering different icons that are going to be benefiting you in different ways. And I guess before I get too far ahead of myself, I should also mention that this one is our Discord pick of the week. If you are interested in voting on your favorite games each week and seeing them in advance, you can go ahead and check our Discord in the description below. But it's no surprise that this one came out on top, because this one does look like a really solid design. It looks like a lot of fun, and for that reason, it's also my own personal pick of the week as well. And I think this game is doing a lot of things right, and what I especially like is the way that the actions work in this game. And the way that that works is that during a player's turn, they have a couple different options. They can either take a worker placement action up at the city, or they can spend their warmth in order to move around on the main board, gather different resources, and interact with the different locations out on the main map. The main map is going to be made up of a bunch of different tiles, with most of them face down at the start of the game. Then players will be able to explore and use actions to uncover those other tiles, but you'll usually need some amount of resources or need to have a skill of a certain amount in order to do so. Whenever a new tile is revealed, players are going to be placing tokens randomly on the token spaces on that tile, and I'll get into all the different types of tokens in a second here. But in order for players to actually move around on the map, you have a couple different options. You can either use the boat that's shared by all players, and of course, in order to use it, it needs to be somewhere adjacent to your character. But if that's not the case, then players can just move around by walking on the land and also by paddling through the shallow waters without the boat. Wherever you stopped with your character, you'll be able to take the token that you stopped on and gain whatever benefit it grants. But then you also get to place your familiar on any of the locations that are adjacent to that spot. This is really neat because it's going to give you a few different things to think about anytime that you're deciding where to go on the map. But these different locations and tokens can offer a wide variety of opportunities, with the most common being to gather the various resources. But there is also different locations that might allow you to engage in different encounters, which will allow you to draw a card from the encounter deck, which will usually present you with some sort of character that has a mission or objective for you to complete, and if you're able to do that, it will gain you with some sort of benefits. There's also a few other special locations that allow players to access other boards within the game, that allow players to go diving in order to try and get a specific item that they're looking for, and you can spend more warmth to dive deeper into the water and get that specific item. But there's also another location that allows you to access the caves and fight monsters for very powerful rewards. When you first enter this cave, you're going to be fighting the easiest monsters at the front of the cave, but as you get deeper and deeper, you're going to be going up against more difficult monsters, but also being offered with bigger and better rewards. Each monster in this game can have some sort of special ability associated with it that will make them a little bit different to go up against than all the rest, but the way that combat works in this game is that you're going to be rolling dice to determine your attack power, and the number of dice that you get to roll is going to be determined by your stats. And each monster will have a base amount of damage that they'll inflict on your character each and every time that you roll your dice, but they're also going to be rolling a monster die as well, which can increase the amount of damage that they inflict. The cool thing about the way that your dice work in this game is that you can roll icons that will help you evade those attacks, but you can also roll two different types of attack icons. There are the bow and arrows, which inflict 1 damage, but then there are the swords that inflict 2 damage against your opponent. But the nice thing about rolling the arrows is that you actually get to apply that damage to the enemy before they're able to attack you, whereas the swords are applied after their attack. So if you only have a few more hits to deal on that enemy, you're going to be wanting to roll as many of those bow and arrows as possible. And there are quite a few options for you to manipulate your dice, because when you roll your dice, you can also cast spells by spending various resources to manipulate those dice in various ways. And you can also spend your warmth in order to re-roll any amount of your dice once. If you're able to defeat the monster, you're going to be getting those rewards and then moving your token deeper into the cave. But then you're going to be replacing that monster card with a new one for any other players that might be coming up behind you. But there's one more special type of location that players can visit in this game. This one is probably the most interesting and sought after of them all, because each player can only visit each one of these locations once in the game, and they offer very powerful benefits if you're able to do so. And these are only drawn randomly from the bag with the other tokens. But the way that they work is that anytime you draw one of those special tokens, you're going to be drawing one of these special location cards and then putting it in the location that matches that token, indicating that when you visit the location that has an A on it, it's going to allow you to access the location card that's in that A slot. The benefits and the cost of the card are all going to be outlined on the card, and then once a player has visited it, they're going to be putting their colored token on that card to indicate that they can't visit it again. So as you can see, there are a lot of opportunities and excitement going on in the map here, but as I said, you're going to have to be spending your warmth in order to explore that area, and eventually you're just simply going to run out of warmth and you're going to have to head back to the town in order to replenish your warmth, or maybe just to spend resources that you've collected so far, because aside from gaining you warmth, each of these locations will require you to spend in all your resources of a specific type in order to get the benefit of that location. And this might grant you with different items and gear that can help you along the way. They might allow you to upgrade your character or your familiar, gain companions that will reward you for completing certain actions throughout the game, or allow you to gain some secret objective cards to gain more victory points or bonuses to help you throughout the game. Another nice bonus about going to the city is that whichever resource that you decide to spend, you're then also going to be increasing the capacity of that specific resource on your board, which, like I said, can also open up new upgrades to you if you're able to uncover the icons within that track. But we can't forget about your companion as well, because just like the companion helps take additional actions out on the map, your companion will do the same thing here, but the way it works here is a little bit different, because rather than your companion taking an action out in the city, you're actually going to be assigning your companion to one of the buildings that you've built on your main player board. And there are a whole bunch of different combinations of buildings that you can build, creating all sorts of different opportunities for your companion to take whenever you do take a city action. But the game continues like this over a series of rounds, with players taking actions to gather resources and different items in order to complete different objectives and upgrade their characters, with the goal of getting the most victory points at the end of the game, and the player that's able to do that wins the game. If you are interested in this one like I am, you'll definitely want to check it out, and I will have it linked in the description below, where you can go ahead and click that button to get notified on launch.